seconds, but I really quickly learned that a lot can happen in 90 seconds. One pivotal moment of when they jumped on the windshield and the glass shattered, and we could feel the glass hit us in the face. And it was in that moment that, my mom is crying, screaming on the phone to 911, help us, save us, we are going to die.
So your mom thinks you're going to die. What's going through your mind about getting out of there? How do you find a path to saving your mom and yourself?
In the moment, my first concern when I stopped the car was making sure no one around me was injured. It quickly changed to making sure that we were not the ones that were injured. And it wasn't until after they smashed the windshield that I finally saw an opening and I was able to take it and drive a block to get away from them and put some distance between us and them while we were waiting for the police to arrive and really save us, because we were at their mercy at this point.
So roughly 5 minutes before the mob attacked Max and his mom, cameras actually caught what is believed to be the same group of teens attacking a taxi cab and the driver with their bikes. Once the driver exited his vehicle, which was a mistake, I believe, to confront them, it became a problem. They could easily get access to them. Now, Max, thankfully you never exited your vehicle and were able to escape with no physical injuries. How are both of you recovered from this emotionally?
Well, like you said, there were no physical injuries, but there definitely was an impact emotionally. In the days and weeks that followed, it was extremely tough. In that moment, I think what's going to stay with me the most is hearing my mom crying, screaming to the 911 operator that we're going to die, that we need help, that you need to save us, essentially. And the next day, she called me. She was still very upset and distraught, crying, and said to me that your actions yesterday saved my life. And I really don't think any son or daughter should ever have to hear those words from a parent of, you saved my life yesterday just because you were driving down Fifth Avenue to go to dinner with your dad.
So what do you want people to know, the other sons and daughters out there, know about surviving intense and violent confrontations?
I think it's important to realize that while this will have an impact on my life, on the life of anybody who goes through something traumatic like this, that it doesn't need to define it. That you can look for something good to come out of it, hope for some change, and not hold on to the anger. Really, for me, I feel bad for those kids that it got to the point where that they felt they needed to express themselves in that way. I'm grateful that my mom and I are safe and that we are recovering and we are going to keep living our lives. There are some ways in which, we have been impacted. It took me weeks before I felt safe getting back into a car. And even the first time, I was incredibly nervous about driving.
Well, you're a very forgiving person. Thanks for sharing your story, Max.
Thank you for having me.
Let me bring in security expert Bill Stanton to break down what to do if you're in a dangerous confrontation on the road. We've talked about rage on the roads before. Some major cities are seeing spikes in carjackings. Why? What's going on? Why are they uptaking this kind of violence?
Well, Doc, we never want to condone any type of violence, burglary, assaults, because that's a crime. And I'm not going to give an excuse, I'm going to give an explanation. Because what we're seeing in this last year or so is food insecurity, financial insecurity, heightened stress. With that heightened stress, you're seeing an uptick in personal assaults and domestic assaults, in burglaries and robberies. And while we're secured in our homes, that's making our motor vehicles vulnerable where people could break in. That's what we're seeing as a trend.
All right, so we got a survival guide. You're the world expert at this. Let's take a seat. We're driving in our car. Let's pretend you're Max, I'm Mom, right? What should you do if you're in the car and suddenly you're under attack? Again, unexpectedly.
Well, as we saw from your great interview, Max and his mother did a lot of things correctly. Once they were initially stopped, Max didn't get out to retaliate or to mediate. Right? So what you want to do from there is you want to do an assessment. Look behind you. Is there traffic? Can I get out? Look in front of me. And if you can't, what I want to do is delegate to you. Call 911. And what I'm doing is I'm looking at street signs. I'm looking at the assailant. What is he wearing? What is he dressed as? All these things are taking in to feed to you. And then at the end, you want to bring as much attention by hitting that horn. As long as possible, you want to get as many eyeballs on you as humanly possible to force multiply where they're filming them, where they're calling law enforcement, and you wait for the troops to come.
Do I film too? Because does that scare people away if they're being filmed?
Well, you're going to be focusing on calling 911, and if I have the wherewithal, if the opportunity, every opportunity is different So if you can, yes, if you have the presence of mind, you want to be filming as you're talking to 911.
All right, let's shift gears. Let's say now you're in the car. I'm the assailant. All right.
Right.
So I've gained access to the car somehow. I've broken the window. The window was down. You tried to mediate. You were trying to be a nice guy. Now I've gotten there. I get my hand in there.
So you put your hand in there. So what I'm going to do real quick, your hand is grabbing me. This is called the Kodagayash. I'm turning, right? So you see what I'm doing?
Whoa, yes.
And I'm not putting a lot of pressure. I now own your arm. Now, I could take it and break it, breaking your shoulder, pushing down on your elbow, or I could shove you away and looking for, as Max did, drive away or get out of the sidecar. Whatever gets me away creates distance.
All right. Up next in our survival guide, whether it's a friend, a neighbor, or a complete stranger, how to defuse a violent and aggressive meltdown. What should you do when someone turns to rage on you? Tomorrow on Dr. Oz. Soda.